Alright, in this tutorial we're going to look at 3D Max's snap tools, and I'm going to set up a little scene here in order to demonstrate this, and I'm going to copy these blocks by hitting shift and pulling it over. And in our copy, we've gone on over this before in other tutorials, but you can select copy, and under the number of copies I'm going to go ahead and make 3 other copies of these boxes so that we can pull them out. Alright, with 3D Max's snap tools you can find them up here, and they're drop down boxes, so you can click and hold and select various options in the snap tools, and you can select multiple snap tools. The two we're going to be using here in this tutorial are the snaps toggle and the angle snap tool, but the other two work the same. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to right click on this toggle switch so that we get the snap settings box open, and then the snap settings you can set what you want to snap to, and we're going to use various ones for this. But before we do that, we're going to come over to the home grid, and we're going to adjust some of these settings. Here under the grid spacing you can adjust how far apart these grid lines are. We're going to set that down to 5 so that we have less space in between the lines. And we're also going to bump this 7 up, which is going to increase the size of this grid a little bit, and we're going to bump that up to about 15. Actually, let's take that up to about 25. Alright. The first snap tool we're going to look at is the grid point snap. So if you select that and close this box out, you'll notice once we turn the snap toggle on that as we move over the intersection lines of the grid, we get this little bullseye, yellow bullseye over each one, and it's going to only select the intersections of the grid. So if we were to select one of the boxes and move it over, we can count the number of grid lines that we want to move it, and you can see that the box will only move from grid line to grid line. So if I wanted to align 2 boxes, I could simply select the second box to align, move it over towards my second box, and the 2 boxes will line up perfectly because they're on intersections of the grids. So let's say now that we want to take another box, this box, and we're going to use the snaps tool. We're going to turn the grid points off, and we're going to select the vertex. And by doing this, once we turn our snaps toggle back on, when we go over a vertex of the box, you'll see you get that little bullseye, that yellow bullseye selecting the vertex of the box. When we move it over to another vertex of the box, notice how it snaps to that vertex. Now if we were to select, say, this one over here, and come up to this vertex, it's going to snap the selected vertex to the vertex that you go to. So again, these boxes will line up on the corners. Now let's say that we want this box to line up with these other 2 boxes, but we want the end, this face right here, to be against the boxes. So in other words, we need to rotate this box 90 degrees. Now we could do that traditionally by coming up to our rotate tool and either rotating it here and trying to get it exactly 90 degrees, or we can type it in down here on our Z-axis. But I want to show you another way of doing that, and that's the angle snap toggle. Now when we select that and right click on it, we'll come over to our options here, and down here to angle, that sets how many degrees each snap is going to be. So we can simply bump that up to 90 degrees, and as we rotate this one now, it rotates 90 degrees at a time. And that's a perfect 90 degrees from this box. And from there we can come back over to our vertex, our move tool. We can grab the vertex that we want on this box and simply line it up with the box that we want it to line up to. And now we have that perfect 90-degree angle from the first original two boxes that we moved. So now if our box were set up to have two length segments, which would have divided it in half, and we wanted to stack this box in between the intersection of these two boxes, we could simply take this vertices, match it up with this vertices, and then set our angle snap to 90 degrees, do our 90-degree rotation, and put it in place, and it's divided that block exactly in half, as well as these.